Dove and Dragon Radio. I'm your host, M.L.Ruscsak. I'm here with a very special author, Eliza Kendall. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Now, your book is The Gospel of St. John. It's book 1 in the Simply Sinister series, correct?
It's based on Rudolf Steiner's books and teachings, yes.
Yep. So a little bit about that. You started telling me where this one came from right before we started the interview.
Well, I just think it's very interesting that I was just getting compelled to write this book. And to write based on the Gospel of St. John by Rudolf Steiner. And it's interesting that the book actually came out right at this time of this pandemic. And it actually is all in the book. And Steiner was saying these things were going to happen 100 years ago. So it's really quite fascinating.
Right. There's a couple actually big people that predicted what's going on now 100, 200 years ago. It's amazing. Like Nostradamus predicted something within his teachings about what's going on now.
Yeah, and this all goes back to Christ, and even go further back to the Old Testament, and why we're here today, why the Christ came to this planet to give us free will. And for free choice, and according to Steiner, we had to delve so deeply into materialism to find spiritualism again.
True. You're also, besides this book, you're a synthesis coach. What is that?
Well, it was started by Dr. Eliza Joslin, and essentially it is described as the psychology of self, finding itself through body, mind, and spirit.
Okay.
And once you have a connection to self and become more integrated with the relationship, inevitably it will extend beyond the personal to a sense of connection and responsibility to the greater whole. And that can be expressed through terms of our planet, ecological footprint, community, our contributions to something or meanings of our interconnections with all other things. We are all one. We are all one whole.
Okay, so it's a little bit like drawing a parallel, because I know that there's just two separate sides of everything. It's almost like teaching chakra to people.
What chakra? Excuse me.
Yeah, chakra?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So it's just a little bit of a parallel. It's just called something different, but it's, like I said, I like drawing parallels because everyone's not going to...
Well, everything is parallel. And if that's part of everything, from heaven, earth, life, death, happy, sad. So, yes, it is all parallel. And I think when I think of the chakras and I think of the universe, and then we have Mother Earth, we are the center of all, and our chakras are our energy points. And when we are in complete alignment, are what I call joyfully aligned. And that's when we are with body, mind, and spirit.
Right. So how can people get more in touch with their spiritual side or intuitive side? Or
well, I do have a free book on my site for people that does have that, explains the chakras based on a lecture of Rudolf Steiner's. And so I happily ask people to take a look at the book, and then I have discussions. We can start discussions based on that book. But essentially, it's through meditation and concentration.
Now, do you do light meditation or deep meditation?
Well, Steiner, meditation is very personal, and it's a personal choice in what makes you feel good and feel free to experiment. So essentially, finding a sacred verse or anything that spiritually interests you, maybe an image, a phrase, music. There's a lot of apps out now. I personally like the Calm app, and we'll play that. while I meditate. So it's a personal choice. And essentially, you deeply, and let go of all sense impressions, associations, memories, thoughts, and dreams. And with your outer world released, you can reach within and allow peace to descend into your inner being. And keep focused on your intentions as best you can. And if your mind wanders, it can whisk it back and focus once again. And there really isn't a limitation. What's important is that we meditate daily, whether it be 5 minutes or 50.
Right. Personally, I do about an hour and a half of meditation every night.
Good for you.
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't sleep.
Oh, that's wonderful. And it does. That's a wonderful time, or at nighttime, speaking of your intentions or what you would like before you go into your dream states.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great time to meditate, but it's also personal. I know one person that likes to meditate against a tree.
Yeah.
So
if this was not COVID time, I would be outside in nature somewhere, nice and meditating. Find myself a creek because there's a nice creek that in the one park that's quiet, and I can meditate there. Or right now, I'm doing it at nighttime.
Yeah. But the important thing is finding that space for you, and that time for you. And
yes.
You'll start feeling the connections. And I think that, everybody has these capabilities. It's, I'm not superwoman. It just, you'll have to have the time and just be silent. And then start listening, and you'll start seeing the clues around you. It might be a feather or a voice or music. There's so many things out there that are trying to reach us through spirit.
Correct. I completely believe that. And there's a thing, I had Dr. London on here yesterday, and we were talking about this through his teachings as well. He does everything in sets of three. So if you want to believe in something, have a good day or anything, it's something like, I believe, or I know. And you do this in 3 sets of 3 because he's a neurologist as well as being have doctorines and everything. But it all ties in together. It's just,
well, 3 is also the Trinity.
Mm-hmm.
Father, Son, Holy Ghost. So it is it's a very strong number. Put it that way.
Very true.
Body, soul, spirit with Steiner. So it's all interconnected, and it's all truth. It's just finding ourselves within those truths, and we're coming to that point now. I think it's very apparent that we are in need of coming together, and according to Steiner, this planet is to be the planet of love and brotherhood. And we've evolved through history, through epics, going back to the ancient Indians, even beyond that, actually, to the Atlanteans, Lemurians. So we're evolving. This is all part of the history, and Christ had to come to this planet in human form, to get us started to this place. But again, as I said, we had to sink so far into materialism that to be able to realize that how important spirit and spirituality is.
Correct. I mean, it's just, we all have to, I think it's taken this pandemic for people to realize what we need and what we don't need, or what we need to get back to as the basics instead of everything that we have going on that's negative.
Yeah, well, worrying about your car or what it may be. The spiritual is our eternal nourishment. Mm-hmm. We're born of the physical world, but also born of the spirit through the eternal laws of the true and the good. And Steiner noted in his time, and remember this was 100 years ago, he died in 1925, I believe, 24 or 25. He said spiritual science, which is what he called his philosophy here, is something that really contradicts true Christian. Is not. People will say, that his thoughts in spiritual science is something that would really contradict true Christianity. Now, these intolerances, he said, will become greater and greater in the future, and Christianity will experience the greatest danger from those very people that believe that they and only they may be called Christians. The Christianity of spiritual science will experience serious attacks from the Christians in name. However, the fact remains, as Steiner professed, spiritual science has no desire to lead into any basic beliefs or any cults or passage to those seeking greater knowledge. It's simply, and as he eloquently stated, divine creation is not simply a repetition of something already existing. The mission of the earth is the cultivation of the principle of love to its highest degree by those beings evolving upon it. So he appeals to the masses. You don't have to join a church or a group, a specific teaching.
Right. You don't have to be
believe.
A specific belief in order to have a higher meaning or higher power that you believe in. It's all a personal choice, one, but at the same time, when you heal yourself from within, you have that personal connection within, then it comes out.
Exactly. And the thing that I love about Steiner and why I chose Steiner is he not only, it's not his mind, when you read Steiner and you read him and you feel him in your soul, it's soulful. And that's what's important to me. It's just not through the intellect. And I personally feel that it's time that we need to unite and develop the universal brotherhood. And we don't need divided sectors, but rather common moral ground. Mm-hmm. And I like to use the word, we need to go develop the universal brotherhood starting from I to we to us.
Yeah. It's religion as a whole has gotten so divided. If we can focus on the common grounds, the common beliefs, they're the core beliefs across all religions.
Absolutely. It's one God. And Jesus, the Christ, happened to come in human form. We had to have it, come in human form. And he is what brought us. He brought us to I, choice. There was at one time we were just universal souls, but that's all found in the book. But he brought us to be able to clear us, as people will say, of whatever we are, of the sins that we may have, but to be human and make choices. So now we make choices. We have free will.
And I think sometimes that free will is being led not by the good intentions, but it's not
materialism.
Yeah, it's materialism. It's the 7 deadly sins that we indulge in.
Well, I go back to, and I have it in my book too, and one of my favorite bands of all time, being a child of the 60s, is the Beatles. But George Harrison's song, I, Me, Mine, all through the day. I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine. That's essentially what we've come into. It's about me. And it's not. And now Mother Nature's certainly teaching us a big lesson, isn't she?
Very true. I mean, if you look from the end of 2019 to now in 2020, Mother Nature is teaching us a lot of things that we were blind to.
Well, another thing that why I was inspired as a child. I always knew I came to this planet for a mission of some sort, but it really came out to me in the 60s. Growing up then, it was a time where you actually saw the war on TV. I related to the hippies. I patched my jeans and wore army boots and army coat. And I knew somewhere in my head there was a mission. We were on a mission, and there were such incredible vibes at that time. The music, the politics, against war, wanting peace, the moonwalk, Lenin and Yoko Ono, staying in bed and give peace a chance, give their peace a chance. And there was just such momentum and Woodstock. And then in 1969, I just kind of think of one of the worst parts was the Manson murders then. And I remember 1969 New Year's Eve to 1970s crying. And my friend saying, why? And I said, because we blew it. We're going to sell out. She said, you're only going to be 13 this year. You have your whole life. Mm-hmm. And I looked at her and I said, I guess. And now 50 years later, here I am writing this book.
There you go.
There you go. So it took 50 years, and because I truly believe I had to go down every human path, where Steiner himself was total intellectual, brilliant doctor, just in so many different degrees, biodynamics, gardening, architecture, spirituality, and I myself was just said, you know what, I'm going to take the path of being human. If that path seems interesting, even dangerous, I might just see what it's like down there. So I spent a lot of time just being human, and now then he interestingly died in his early 60s, and now I'm picking up his pieces now in my 60s. So we just work well together, the human and which you have to understand, and also the part of spirit.
So are you working on another piece to this series?
Yes, actually I've already written the next book, but I'm holding off, obviously, because to get people going with the Gospel of St. John, because I think that really tells it all, why we're here, what the Christ brought us, and where we're going to, which is the planet of love and brotherhood. So my next book will be Knowledge of the Higher Worlds and Its Attainment, mm-hmm. And that will be coming out, hopefully sometime this year. Mm-hmm. But I'll also be doing some more short books, like I right now have for free the meditation and concentration that people can download at my site. But I will also be adding other lectures and things in there to just keep people's interest, and so we can continually have discussions. I invite people to come and register to my website. It's Leave It with Liza Coaching, and just come in there and get involved in the discussions. I will be involved in them myself, so I invite that. And because I really think it's really important, as I said, from I to we to us, that we need to band together and talk about the changes that need to be made and the results that we can come by this. So the more discussion, the better it is, and that's why I decided to do things more in a book club format, mm-hmm. so people could sit down and really relate to the work. Right. I do have a question to answer in the book itself that people can use, but I also have a workbook with about 144 questions in it that people can download if they want to just not write in a book but have a paper copy to write on. Mm-hmm. So, and some's experimenting of what people like or don't like or whatever. So, but the main point is to get everybody talking.
Right. That's the whole point about any book, especially ones that are teaching things that are coming from a teacher from 100 years ago.
Right.
Is to get people talking about it, right. And then restart the dialogue and teach the younger.
Well, that's it. And there's Rudolf Steiner started the Waldorf Schools. If you've heard of Waldorf.
I have.
So he's known all around the world, and the biodynamics, of course, too. So, and he's known and respected with that. So, that for me, everything about Steiner, I just sat down. It just resonated. It was just. But what I did is I found him easier to read in smaller doses, and that's why I took his work and his lectures and changed them a little bit. I didn't dumb them down, but changed a little bit to make it a little easier to read. So figuratively, you wouldn't want to, after a chapter, you want to throw the book against the wall and take a break, because it's soulful, and so it's nice to take into smaller doses, so to speak. So that was my intention with this book. There's a brief synopsis in the contents of in the chapters, and then I also offer personal commentaries of how I feel and how I felt in my life. And then I have those questions and answers that I had told you, so people can really completely understand and soulfully get the words that he was speaking and that I'm writing.
Right. So I'm going to go a little off topic. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's parallel. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your eclectic life experience?
Eclectic?
Yes. I can't spell. I can't talk today.
I know. You know what? Sometimes the tongue just likes to tie itself. And that's something I would tease somebody and say it 3 times fast. Do you want to try it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I've had 3 strokes, so there's words my tongue just doesn't do.
I completely get it, and I can't. I'm just tongue-tied anyways. So that's a toughie. I would say I don't really know. With my life experience would be, I remember being a small child out of the crib. I remember going to the doctor's office and them lying me down on the scale, and it was cold. But I liked the doctor because he kind of tickled me, and he was cute. I mean, imagine this. We're talking baby. I remembered understanding language, but not being able to speak yet. Like my vocal cords or whatever, it wasn't developed. I didn't know how to enunciate, say the words, like eclectic. And, so it was, and I wonder if that's not part of, the terrible twos, so to speak.
Yeah.
People have that. But so that was the journey. I was just always felt I was just a little bit different out there. I had troubles in the classroom sitting still, reading everybody around me. So I was privately tutored sometimes in my life, and I acted out a little bit too. But all along, spirit has always been with me. And I think what really came out is when my brother-in-law died. He was 50. He was young, of a brain tumor. And I asked him, and he was brought up in the South, a very strict Baptist father. And I said, but he was also, very liberal and open-minded, and welcomed, everybody in the community. And I said, if this is really real, will you come back to me? And I said, not in a stupid way, but just in a way that you can show me that this is real. Well, in the middle of the night, I got a slam on my back. The door sprung open. My daughter was sleepwalking. I saw an angel behind her. And he had died that morning. And I thought, whoa, okay, that is real. And this was many years ago, mind you. This was 30-some-odd years ago.
Right.
And I just kind of rolled on and, whatever. And then it really hit me when my mother died. And she and I were really, really close. And on day 3 after her death, the day that she was cremated, she came back to me and lay with me and actually kissed me, and I kidded her about her thin lips and spoke to me that she had to see me and how she loved me. And I said to her, have you seen your friends? Have you seen Aunt Bobby? Have you seen? And she said, no, but the light is just ahead. And I said, what is the experience like? And she said, wonderful. And then she came back and played me music and some other things of her song that was, she had a boat, Silver Girl. She was a sailor. And emphasize this is your time to shine. All your dreams are on your way. And that just kind of all just escalated into the psychosynthesis, and which then came to writing these books. I just sat down. My kids are like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I can't stop, so just leave me alone. Let me keep writing." And this is my journey. This is what I was brought here to do. And I've had spirits visits quite often backing me. One of them being Leonard Cohen singing me Suzanne in a chapel. So I've had some interesting experiences, but that's because I opened the door, you know?
Right. I mean, once you open certain doors, they're always open.
They are. And then it's just allowing yourself to be silent. And I actually had a voice which was really interesting going through this this time that we are, and I was worrying. I worried about, this or that or here or there or the book or people going to like me. And all of a sudden I heard this woman's voice say, "Stop." And I thought, wow, that was pretty intense. And then I thought, well, what a great just one word. Stop. Be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. Be silent and be in the moment. Be now.
Mm-hmm.
And appreciate now.
Well, we're almost out of time, and I want everyone to be able to reach you again. So we can find your books on Amazon. And the name of your website again?
It is Leave It with Liza, Liza. And Cape Cod Spiritual Coach is what I'm called because I live here on Cape Cod, Massachusetts. But it's Leave It with Liza.
Okay. And do you have social media sites that they can find you at?
Yes, I do. I have a Facebook, and I have my friend Steve working on my Twitter and some other accounts. So if they get to my site or if they go to Facebook, they'll be able to find me in the future, too. They can just sign up and register on my site, and then I'll pass along as we evolve more information. And I'd love to hear from people. I want to hear how their lives, their book, and have discussions, about the book and how they relate to it and how we can change this world into the planet of love that it's supposed to be.
Sounds wonderful. Again, Eliza, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. And peace. Let there be peace on earth. And let it begin with me, us. We can do this.
Yes, we can. And for all of our readers, happy listening. Thank you.
Hey, take care, everyone. Peace.
Bye.
Bye, hon.